There comes a moment in life when you get tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can cure, but the kind of tired that settles deep inside your spirit. You get tired of explaining yourself, tired of reaching out first, tired of wondering why somebody who once made you feel important now makes you feel invisible, tired of sending messages that receive silence, offering love that receives excuses, and opening doors for people who never thought to knock on yours. And one day something inside you becomes still. You stop chasing, not because you have stopped caring, not because your heart has turned cold, not because you have become bitter or cruel. You stop chasing because you finally understand something that should have been taught to you long ago. Love should never require you to abandon yourself. There is a difference between fighting for something meaningful and begging someone to recognize its value. There is a difference between showing someone that you care and continually proving that you are worthy of being cared for. There is a difference between patience and self-neglect. And when you learn that difference, your life begins to change. You begin to walk differently. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to look at yourself in the mirror and see a person who has been waiting all along for your own attention. For so long, perhaps you have been running after people who were already walking away. You kept calling, you kept checking, you kept forgiving, you kept giving another chance, then another and another, hoping that eventually they would become the person you believed they could be. But listen carefully. You cannot love somebody into loving you correctly. You cannot convince someone to value what they have already decided to take for granted. You cannot keep pouring water into a cup that has chosen to remain empty. There comes a time when you must put the cup down. And that is not defeat, that is wisdom. Some people will misunderstand your silence. Let them, some will say you have changed. Let them say it. Some will wonder why you no longer call, why you no longer explain, why you no longer appear whenever they snap their fingers. Let them wonder. You are not responsible for maintaining access to you for people who never respected your presence. There is a sacred kind of peace that arrives when you stop trying to be chosen by people who continually make you feel like an option. You realize that you don't have to stand at somebody's door knocking until your knuckles bleed just because you once loved the person living inside. Sometimes the door closes because God, life, destiny, or simply your own growing wisdom is trying to show you that there is another road. And perhaps that road is not crowded. Perhaps nobody is waiting there to applaud you. Perhaps you have to walk it alone for a while. But walking alone is not the same thing as being lost. Sometimes solitude is where you finally hear yourself. For years you may have been listening to everybody else's opinions. What they wanted, what they expected, what they needed, what made them comfortable. You became so busy trying to keep everybody else from leaving that you forgot to ask yourself whether you wanted them to stay. That question can change your entire life. Do I actually feel loved here? Do I feel respected here? Do I feel peaceful here? Do I feel like myself here? Or am I constantly performing a version of myself that I believe somebody else will finally accept? Because if you must become smaller to keep someone beside you, then their company is costing you too much. Hear me now. You were not born to spend your life auditioning for love. You were not born to chase affection. You were not born to beg for basic respect. You were not born to convince somebody that your heart has value. Your worth existed before anybody complimented you, before anybody desired you, before anybody chose you, and before anybody rejected you. Your worth does not rise when someone loves you. Your worth does not fall when someone leaves you. Your worth is not a negotiation, it is yours. And once you understand that, you stop chasing people and start building a life that makes you proud to come home to yourself. You begin investing your energy differently. Instead of asking, why don't they call me? You ask, what can I do with this hour? Instead of staring at your phone waiting for a message, you pick up the book you have been meaning to read. Instead of replaying somebody's cold words in your mind, you begin speaking warmer words to yourself. Instead of wondering why they did not appreciate you, you begin appreciating yourself. And slowly, almost quietly, you return to life. You start laughing again. You start dreaming again. You start making plans that have nothing to do with whether somebody else approves of them. You rediscover music. You rediscover mornings. You rediscover the beauty of sitting alone without feeling abandoned. You discover that peace is not boring. Peace is precious. When you stop chasing people, you also begin to see people more clearly. When you are constantly chasing someone, desperation can make you overlook reality. You see potential instead of behavior. You hear promises instead of patterns. You remember the good days and use them to excuse the painful ones. But when you step back, your vision clears. You notice who reaches for you without being asked. You notice who remembers your struggles. You notice who celebrates your victories without secretly competing with you. You notice who checks on you because they genuinely care, and who checks on you only when they need something. You notice who respects your boundaries and who becomes angry because your boundaries prevent them from using you. And that clarity is a gift. Sometimes you do not need more answers. You need more distance. Distance has a way of telling the truth that arguments never can. You don't have to interrogate somebody about why they changed. Watch what they do. You don't have to beg somebody to communicate. Watch whether they communicate. You don't have to ask whether somebody values you. Watch how they treat you when they have nothing to gain. Behavior speaks in a language that excuses cannot silence. And when you stop chasing, you give people the opportunity to reveal themselves. That is one of the greatest freedoms you can give yourself. You stop controlling the outcome. You stop trying to force somebody to stay. You stop manipulating conversations. You stop sending one more message because maybe this time they will respond differently. You stop rehearsing speeches in your head about everything they did wrong. You simply step back, and sometimes when you step back, the person steps forward, and sometimes they don't. Both outcomes are answers. Read that again in your spirit. Both outcomes are answers. If they come toward you with sincerity, accountability, and genuine effort, then perhaps there is something worth rebuilding. But if they disappear the moment you stop carrying the entire relationship on your back, then you have learned something important. You were not holding a relationship together. You were holding together an illusion. And illusions can be painful to release, but freedom is waiting on the other side. Do not be afraid of losing people who only remain when you chase them. Let them go. You are not losing love. You are losing the exhausting responsibility of convincing someone to participate in it. There are people in this world who will not require you to beg for their attention. There are people who will hear your silence and ask if you are okay. There are people who will notice when your voice changes. There are people who will celebrate you without needing you to earn the celebration. There are people who will not make you question whether you matter. But before you meet those people, you must become willing to stop accepting less simply because you are afraid of being alone. Fear can make a prison look like a home. You can become so accustomed to disappointment that consistency feels suspicious. You can become so accustomed to being ignored that attention feels like a miracle. You can become so accustomed to chasing that someone walking beside you feels impossible. But do not confuse familiarity with destiny. Just because something has been happening for a long time does not mean it must continue. You are allowed to change your standards. You are allowed to say, "This no longer works for me." You are allowed to leave conversations that constantly make you feel worthless. You are allowed to stop answering every call. You are allowed to stop explaining every decision. You are allowed to protect your peace without writing a courtroom defense explaining why. Your life belongs to you. And peace sometimes requires disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. That is not cruelty. That is maturity. There will be people who only love the version of you that says yes. They will call you difficult when you say no. They will call you selfish when you finally consider your own needs. They will say you have changed when you stop tolerating disrespect. And perhaps they are right. Perhaps you have changed, thank God, because growth is change. A tree does not apologize for becoming taller. A river does not apologize for changing its course. The morning does not apologize for replacing the darkness. And you do not need to apologize for becoming someone who finally understands their own value. When you stop chasing people, your standards become clearer. You stop asking, how can I make them stay? You start asking, do they deserve a place in my life? That is a powerful question, because your life is not a waiting room. Your heart is not a public building where everybody gets unlimited access. Your time is not disposable. Your attention is not cheap. Your energy is sacred. Every hour you spend chasing someone is an hour you cannot spend becoming the person you were meant to become. Think about that. While you are watching somebody else's life, your own life is moving. While you are waiting for somebody else's approval, your own dreams are waiting for you. While you are trying to be enough for somebody else, the person you could become is standing patiently inside you, asking you to come home to yourself, come home to your purpose, come home to your dignity. Come home to the quiet place where you remember that you are more than somebody else's opinion. You may have spent years believing that if you could just love harder, work harder, give more, forgive more, sacrifice more, eventually somebody would recognize your value. But sometimes the lesson is not to give more. Sometimes the lesson is to stop giving where nothing grows. A seed can be beautiful, but if the soil refuses to receive it, you cannot blame the seed for not becoming a garden. And sometimes you are the seed. You have been planting yourself in places that could never nourish you. You kept calling it patience. Maybe it was fear. You kept calling it loyalty. Maybe it was attachment. You kept calling it love. Maybe it was the desperate hope that your suffering would eventually be rewarded. But love is not supposed to require the destruction of your dignity. Real love can be difficult. Yes, real relationships require patience. Real people make mistakes. But there is a difference between loving someone through their imperfections and continually accepting behavior that breaks you. Forgiveness does not mean unlimited access. Compassion does not mean self-abandonment. Understanding someone does not require you to tolerate everything they do. You can understand why someone hurt you and still choose not to remain where they can hurt you again. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can love someone and still choose yourself. Those truths can exist together, and perhaps that is the maturity you have been searching for. Not becoming heartless, becoming whole, because the goal is not to stop loving. The goal is to stop losing yourself while you love. There is something beautiful about a person who can say, I love you, but I will not chase you. I forgive you, but I will not keep returning to the same wound. I wish you well, but I will not destroy my peace trying to prove that I deserve yours. That is not bitterness, that is freedom. And freedom changes your posture. You stop looking behind you. You stop wondering who is leaving. You stop counting how many people are still there. You begin looking forward. You begin asking what kind of life you want to build. What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of mornings do you want to wake up to? What kind of people do you want around your table? What kind of conversations do you want to have? What kind of memories do you want to create? And suddenly, the person who ignored your message yesterday is no longer the center of your universe. The person who walked away is no longer holding the keys to your happiness. The person who rejected you is no longer qualified to define your future. You realize that rejection can redirect you. A closed door can protect you. A goodbye can become the beginning of a life you could not imagine while you were still holding on. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not getting what you begged for. Sometimes the blessing is realizing you no longer want it. And that realization may come slowly. You may cry, you may miss them, You may have nights when you want to reach out. Do not shame yourself for that. Healing does not mean you never miss anyone. Healing means missing someone no longer convinces you to betray yourself. You can miss them and keep walking. You can remember the good and still accept the ending. You can be grateful for what was and honest about what is. Some chapters are beautiful because they happened. They are not meant to be repeated forever. And there is dignity in turning the page. So if you have been chasing somebody who keeps running away, stop. Not tomorrow. Not after one more conversation. Stop when your spirit tells you that enough is enough. Put the phone down. Let the silence be silent. Do not fill every empty space with another message. Do not chase an explanation from someone who has already explained themselves through their actions. Give yourself permission to breathe. Let the unanswered question remain unanswered if answering it requires you to lose yourself. You do not need closure from everybody. Sometimes closure is simply deciding that you will not hurt yourself anymore. And when you make that decision, something powerful begins to happen. You become available for your own life. You begin to notice opportunities. You begin to notice people who have been quietly supporting you. You begin to notice talents you neglected. You begin to notice dreams you abandoned. You begin to notice the person in the mirror again. And maybe that person has been waiting for you for years. Maybe they have been saying, please come back. Come back not to who you were before the heartbreak. Come back to who you are becoming after it. Become softer without becoming weaker. Become wiser without becoming colder. Become more selective without becoming cruel. Become independent without becoming afraid of connection. Let your heart remain open, but put a door on it. Let people knock. Let them introduce themselves. Let their actions speak. Let consistency earn trust. Let respect earn access. Let love prove itself through behavior. You do not have to chase what is meant to walk beside you. And if someone has to be chased constantly, perhaps they are not walking beside you at all. Perhaps you have been dragging them. Let go. Let them walk their road. You walk yours. The right people will not need to be dragged into your life. They will bring their own feet. They will bring their own effort. They will bring their own honesty. They will bring their own heart. And you will not have to beg them to stay. There will be reciprocity. There will be peace. There will be moments of disagreement, certainly, because real relationships are not perfect. But there will also be repair. There will be accountability. There will be effort. You will not have to decode every silence. You will not have to analyze every text. You will not have to wonder whether you matter. And if you are currently in a place where you constantly wonder whether you matter, let this be your reminder. You matter. Even when they do not call. You matter when they walk away. You matter when they misunderstand you. You matter when they reject you. You matter when nobody applauds. You matter when the room is empty. You matter when the phone is silent. Your value does not disappear simply because someone failed to recognize it. A diamond does not become a stone because somebody cannot afford it. A sunrise does not become less beautiful because somebody sleeps through it. And you do not become less worthy because someone was too blind, too distracted, too wounded, or too selfish to love you properly. Stop measuring your worth by somebody else's capacity. Their limitations are not your identity. Their inability to love you is not proof that you are unlovable. Their departure is not proof that you are destined to be alone. Sometimes people leave because their chapter in your life is complete. Let the chapter close. Do not keep reopening the same page hoping the ending will change. You have a whole book ahead of you. And there are pages you have not even imagined yet. There are friendships you have not made. There are places you have not seen. There are mornings you have not experienced. There are versions of yourself you have not met. There is laughter ahead. There is growth ahead. There is purpose ahead. There is peace ahead. But you cannot walk toward the future while constantly running backward. So stop chasing. Stop chasing the explanation. Stop chasing the approval. Stop chasing the affection. Stop chasing the people who make you question whether you are enough. Turn around. Look at yourself. Look at the years you survived. Look at the storms you endured. Look at the nights you thought you would never get through. Look at the wounds that became wisdom. Look at the person standing here today. You are still here. That means something. You have survived every day that once convinced you that you could not. And now it is time to stop merely surviving other people's choices and start making your own. Choose peace. Choose dignity. Choose growth. Choose relationships that nourish you. Choose work that gives your gifts somewhere to go. Choose rest without guilt. Choose laughter without permission. Choose yourself, not because you are better than anybody else, but because you finally understand that you are responsible for the life you have been given. And when you choose yourself, you may lose some people. Let them go. You may disappoint some people. Let them be disappointed. You may become unfamiliar to people who benefited from the old version of you. Let them adjust. Your responsibility is not to remain the same person so everyone else can remain comfortable. Your responsibility is to become the fullest expression of who you can be. And one day you will look back and realize that the moment you stopped chasing them was the moment you started finding yourself. You will realize that the silence you feared became your peace, the loneliness you feared became your independence, the rejection you feared became your redirection, the goodbye you feared became your freedom, and the person you were desperately trying to convince to love you became less important than the person you finally learned to love yourself. So walk away from what keeps asking you to prove your worth. Walk away from conversations that leave you empty. Walk away from relationships where effort only travels in one direction. Walk away from anything that requires you to betray your own soul just to keep it. Do it with grace. Do it without revenge. Do it without announcing your departure to the world. You do not need to prove that you are moving on. Move on quietly, powerfully, completely. And if they come back, do not listen only to their words. Watch their actions. If they say they miss you, ask whether they have changed. If they say they care, watch how they treat you. If they say they want another chance, ask whether they are prepared to build something different. Because returning is not the same as changing. Apologies are beautiful, but transformation is better. Promises can sound sweet, but consistency is what makes them believable. Do not let loneliness negotiate your standards. Do not let nostalgia rewrite history. Do not let one beautiful memory convince you to return to a place that repeatedly broke your heart. Remember the whole story. Remember why you left. Remember what you learned. And most importantly, remember who you became when you finally chose yourself. That person deserves your loyalty. You owe yourself the same devotion you once gave to everybody else. You owe yourself patience. You owe yourself kindness. You owe yourself forgiveness. You owe yourself another chance. And you owe yourself a life that does not depend on someone else's willingness to stay. When you stop chasing people, everything changes. Not because everyone suddenly comes running toward you. Not because the world suddenly becomes fair. It changes because you stop running away from yourself. You stop abandoning your own needs to keep someone else close. You stop confusing pursuit with love. You stop confusing attention with affection. You stop confusing familiarity with belonging. You stop asking, how do I make them choose me? And you begin asking the most important question of all. Am I choosing myself? Choose yourself. Again and again and again, not selfishly, not arrogantly, but faithfully. Because there is a life waiting for you that requires your full attention. There are dreams waiting for your courage. There are people waiting for the authentic version of you. There is a peace waiting for your permission. So let the ones who want to leave, leave. Let the ones who refuse to value you go. Let the ones who only love you when you are convenient disappear. You do not have to chase them down the road. You do not have to scream their name into the wind. You do not have to beg them to turn around. Stand still, stand tall, stand in the truth of who you are. And if they choose to walk away, bless the road beneath their feet. Then turn around and walk toward your own horizon, because your life is too precious to spend chasing people who are running in the opposite direction. Your heart is too beautiful to spend begging for crumbs. Your future is too important to sacrifice for someone who refuses to meet you halfway. There is more waiting for you, more love, more wisdom, more laughter, more purpose, more life. And the moment you stop chasing what refuses to stay, you create room for what is willing to remain. You create room for peace, you create room for yourself, and perhaps that is the greatest transformation of all. You finally realize that you were never supposed to spend your life convincing people to love you. You were supposed to live, to grow, to love deeply, to stand proudly, to walk forward, to become, and when you do that, you will discover something extraordinary. The life you were desperately trying to build around other people was never the life you were meant to live. The life meant for you begins the moment you stop chasing and start choosing. Choose yourself, then keep walking. There is no need to run after what belongs beside you. What is meant to stay will meet you with effort. What is meant to grow will meet you with care. What is meant to love you will meet you with love. And what refuses to meet you halfway, let it go, not because you do not care, but because you finally care enough about yourself to stop begging for what should have been given freely. Your peace is worth protecting. Your time is worth honoring. Your heart is worth guarding. Your life is worth living. So breathe, relish, forgive, rise, and walk. Walk away from the need to be chosen. Walk toward the courage to choose yourself, because the day you stop chasing people is not the day you lose them. It is the day you find you.